Hi there, this is Brain Food for the Good Life, and I'm Dr. Paul Schmidt, clinical psychologist, recovery life coach in Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, and at mynewlife.com, where you can find a dozen self help articles on each one of 10 subjects. Today, I'm bringing you one of my short talks on recovery, and we're talking about finding a sponsor today and how to work with one. So the first thing you want to do is to find a meeting that you go to on a regular basis, a home group where you're going to keep going. And then you're going to look for somebody there that has helped you in the meeting, who seems to have what you want. Maybe they've got some sobriety, a sense of humor, confidence, serenity, whatever. But you're looking for somebody whose words have helped you in the past. Then you get his first name, and then you meet with him after the meeting. So go straight to the door, turn around, and then and you can wait for two different people and try to talk to a couple of people after the meeting. But I'd wait for the first one that looks like they don't have too many people around them, and just kind of wait and listen to the conversation that he's having. All these are open conversations. And when there's nobody else looking at him, you just say, "Hey, Joe, thank you for what you said today about blah, blah, blah. That was helpful. And I've never thought about doing this before until you suggested it. That's good." But you give him a little affirmation. Um, and then you wait for him to ask you something, maybe to get to know you, what your name is. Tell him first. But he might ask a little bit about you. And then that's all I do the first time. The second time, I would do the same thing. Tell him something else you liked about it. Maybe ask him a question about something that happened in the meeting. But then I would tell him that you'd like to talk with him sometime about if he has what you want in a sponsor and you're ready, you think, to be sponsored. The way to break the ice is not to say, "I want you to sponsor me," because that opens you up to rejection and doesn't give him enough information to know whether he wants to sponsor you. But I'd suggest you say this: "I'd like to talk with you sometime about sponsorship in general, if you have been sponsored and what that was like. And Joe, I'd like to know if you sponsor people and how you approach that." So that's all you say, and then you just try to have a one-on-one talk with him. Maybe he'll stay after the meeting tonight. Maybe you'll talk with him next time. Maybe you'll talk about it on the phone. But just let him know, how can I talk with you about that? How and when can we do that? The first thing to establish with him, I would just hear whatever he wants to tell you about what his experience has been being sponsored and sponsoring people. And if he asks to know what you want first and what your experience is, tell him what your experience is, but you get to decide what you want is the purpose of that relationship. So there's several purposes you might have. Recovery coaches is what a sponsor is your recovery coach. You might want him to teach you things and give you instruction, guidance about your problems. You may want him to set an example for you. You may want him to be giving you encouragement. You might need encouragement. You may want to be accountable to him. You might want him to get feedback from somebody else or give feedback to somebody else. But the most important purpose you can have that will help you more than anything else, in addition to that other stuff, is to decide if you want somebody to take you through the steps. That's the main job of a sponsor. And I don't sponsor anybody that didn't want to do that. That's the most important thing, because a lot of people can do the other stuff. But it's a master apprentice program. I mean, if somebody has taken him through the steps to their satisfaction and has checked him out, then he can take others through the steps and check you out. And so you all are going to sit down and talk about where you are with step one first, and he may give you some homework to do and some questions to answer. Just do what he says and meet with him again to go over, what answers you've made on the first step. It's usually powerlessness and unmanageability and denial and things like that he wants to hear some things listed, maybe list what you think your problems are. And that's pretty routine for step one. And just to help you come out of denial. and realize that you're powerless, because that's over what comes out of you and the things around you, because that's pretty much the basic insight you got to have before you want to work the other step. But after identifying what the purpose is, I would say to him, what is the process? How often would you want to meet with me at first here? How often and how would you want to meet with me? Virtually or face to face at a meeting or some other place? What phone calls do you want? What check-ins by text? What? How do you want me to report into you? And then by what schedule? How often? I would take his advice on that and just follow his advice, and you just know that's how it's going to be at first, and we'll adjust that as we go. So the only other thing I want to tell you about it is, it's not a permanent deal, and it needs to be an honest and kind relationship like everything else. So if something's bothering you or something's confusing you, tell him about it. And use I statements is like, I don't understand this. I didn't feel like I could do that. I didn't understand why you said this. And you'll get feedback that way. But don't hide problems and pain from him. He's there to help you work through that. So be honest. And if you ever tell him a lie, come back to him and say, I'm sorry, I told you something that wasn't true last time. I don't want to do that, because you can't help me if I'm not honest with you. Don't worry about being territorial about it or hurting his feelings. If you get tired of working with him, you can just start working with somebody else. It's not a permanent decision. It's as long as this is working for us both. He can fire you, you can fire him, but that's how it goes. Well, that's the main thing I want you to understand about working with a sponsor, and so I wish you well with it.